better. All right. We'll shut her down for now. Okay, Ron here, back for another one. So I bought this 1970 Acadian Chevy Nova. Depends who you are, what you believe. What is this thing? To me, it reminds me of the Novas. Of course, it is actually an Acadian. Basically, a Nova that's been rebadged as an Acadian here in Canada. I don't want to get into all that stuff. But the problem I'm having is I bought this car. I was under the understanding that it was fouling plugs, running rich. I went and bought it, kind of sight unseen. It smoked bad, like my Aunt Selma. So I ended up buying it, taking it home, and I've been trying to find the answer to the smoking problem ever since. And found it, figured it out. So let's get into this video right now. This thing does not smoke anymore. Just give a quick update what's going on. So this is a 70 Acadian. Working on this today, well, yesterday actually, trying to get that smoking issue sorted. Put on a known good carb, but that didn't change anything. We pulled out all the plugs, cleaned them up, that didn't change anything. Re-gapped them, that didn't change anything. It's starting to look at this point, look like carb seals to be, or sorry, valve seals to be honest. So that might be next on the list. We'll see. Just change the carb, that made no difference at all. Just waiting for my buddy to get here. Give me a hand with this hood. If he's not here soon, I'll just take it off myself, I guess. I went out to the previous owner, called me up and he said, "Hey Ron, you got the wrong hood. I found the right hood behind my garage if you want to come get it." Well, these Acadians, for anyone who doesn't know, which is most of us, because most of us never owned one of these things, these badges, especially this one guy made a comment, "Hey Ron, that's made out of unobtainium," and he's right. Like, if you think about these Acadians, they only made them for 3 years. Well, in this body style, the 68, 69, and 70. That's it. And the 70 was that production year was actually cut short. And that's what this is, a 70. So this emblem, we didn't save these cars. We crushed them, right? Like, they were cheap cars. There's not a lot of those kicking around. Like, I tried to find one and I could find ridiculous prices. Like, how about $400 for a used one? And nobody had one. So I don't know. Chew on that. That kind of sucks, right? So anyway, that's where I'm at. When Tyler gets here, I'm going to pop that hood. We'll put that regulator on first, or sorry, the pressure gauge on first, and just see what we got for pressure right at the carb. I'll just splice into the fuel line there, and we'll check her out. All right. So that's where we'll be at when we get back. Over at Jeff's place, we had pulled the plugs out and checked them. Didn't really get anywhere. We changed the carb out. That didn't really do anything. We put a fuel regulator on there, but the gauge didn't work. So we don't really know how much fuel pressure we had. A bit of a poop show, if you will. So let's see if we can get this thing going, because I want next on the... I want to get this fuel issue, this fouling issue done and over with and behind us, so we can get on to whatever's next. And that might be this interior. That might be that subframe. Subframe down here. Control arms, springs. Oh, we got lots coming up. If you're into this kind of thing, I am. Hopefully you are too. We can get after it, so we can get this one done and get on to our 56 Chevy truck, which is sitting beside the garage. If this one starts lagging, I might even start swapping them back and forth. We'll see what happens. Anyway, hopefully Tyler gets here soon and we can get started on this. Oh, isn't that nice? Garbage. Okay, so something must have come up with Tyler. He's running behind or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and pull this hood. We'll throw it up there and then we'll get started. How's that look for us? That way we can see the gauge. So this will be job one. What is our fuel pressure at? You guys see that okay there? Let's see. I think so. Hook our battery up. We're gonna go turn our key on. We'll see what we get. Where are we gonna settle out? Sounds like she's almost done. Looks like around 5 psi. I don't think this is going to be our problem. I do not think the overfueling comes from the pump. Okay, so I just pulled all the plugs. They all pretty much look the same. So that's 1 hour of runtime. I don't know if we're gonna focus in on that or not, but they're all pretty sooty. They're all pretty dry on the end. I don't know if you can see that. This one's probably one of the worst ones. But it is a dry soot. Again, these have only ran for about an hour. All right, let me show you something else. It's a little bit funky. Let's check the oil. It's there, but it's awful low. Where'd it go? This is a fresh rebuild. Doesn't have a lot of miles on it. Look at that. Probably down 2 quarts of oil. Why? Where'd that go? Is that what we're seeing on these plugs? Gee, I'm not real sure anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick compression test on all 8 cylinders. My buddy Angus would like that to be one of the first things we try. So I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll show you the first one. There's no sense showing you all 8. I'll get that done. We'll record some numbers and we'll go back. We'll do it again wet. We'll just put a little bit of oil in each one and see if the numbers come up at all. So yeah, give me a second, I'll get that done. Okay, so now I'm going to do a compression test. If you don't know what a compression test is, it's basically this gauge right here, and it'll actually hold the pressure that we create in the cylinder. On the other side of this is basically a piece that threads in where your spark plug would. You can pick these up off Amazon, Canadian Tire, Summit, I don't know, Pep Boys, whatever, AutoZone, whatever you guys got down in your neighborhoods. They're usually, what, between 15 and 40 bucks. Pretty cheap. Anyway, I got this one hooked up. Let's go ahead. I've already done this, but for your benefit, we'll do it. So you can see we're sitting up around 175 psi, and that's pretty consistent. throughout the entire engine. In fact, I've done them all with the exception of 3 and 4, just because my contraption doesn't want to play nice with those headers. So we got 6 of them anyway, and you can see they range. They're mostly 175. I got one that's 180, and I got 2 that are 170 dry. I won't recheck them, but now I'm going to check them wet. My buddy Angus says, check them dry, check them wet. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a little bit of oil in each one independently and recheck these numbers. And I'll let you know what they come back as. Maybe I'll check this one first. Okay? Hang tight. Okay, so what I did is just took a little squirt bottle with a little deal on there, and I can kind of control the oil that comes out of there, if you can see that. I just put in, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon of oil, not much. But we got it in, we're hooked up again. Let's find out. Okay, did it jump? Not really. What do we got there? Maybe 180, so 5 psi. We'll check the others. I promised I would, so we'll do that. Okay, so here's the results of our compression tests, both wet and dry. I redid it down here because that's a mess. So for 1, 3, and 7, I got 170, 170, and 175 dry, and then wet was 180 across the board. I couldn't get 5 because I couldn't get my compression tester in there. On the other bank, the passenger side, we got 2, 4, and 8. We got 175, 180, and 175. And then for our wet numbers, we got 180, 185, and 180. No smoking gun here, I would say. If you got something else to say about it, hey, let me know. I don't know everything, that's for damn sure. But I'm seeing like a 5 psi, a 10 psi drop in the worst case. And I'm not even sure that 170 is correct. I feel like I might have got off the ignition a little quick, but regardless, nothing here that really stands out to me as bad rings. But I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you think that is actually bad rings, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. All right. Now I'm going to try a leak down test. So that's my leak down tester, and the way this works is we're going to hook that into the spark plug hole, probably the same 6, and then we'll hook this guy on. We'll put some air in here. We're going to measure how much air gets passed. Now, according to my Amazon little deal here, anything under 40% is good. I'd like to see it 20 or less myself, but we'll fire this up and I'll show you how it works here, and maybe we'll start with number 1 together, and then I'll carry on with the other 5 myself. Unless I can get those other 2, but I doubt it. Okay, so now we're at top dead center. We're going to, so at top dead center, on this number 1 valve, or this number 1 cylinder rather, both valves should be closed. So this is when you want to do your leak down test. You want to see if it's leaking past the valves or if it's leaking past the cylinders and what percentage. So let's take a look. That compressor is probably going to turn on. So let's raise that up to 100 psi, I believe. And then look at us there. It's pretty damn good. I don't believe our rings are a problem. If they were, we'd be way up in here somewhere, right? Moderate or high. But we're not even to low. Okay, I'm going to shut this down. Okay, it's time to step it up a notch. We're going inside. I'm going to pull the carb, and we'll get in there with the camera, and we'll check these runners and see if we can see oil in the intake manifold itself, which would indicate that maybe we are not sealing on the bottom of the intake manifold, and we're drawing oil in from the lifter valley. And then, how do I explain this now? So let's say this was the bad side. You would actually pull it in here, but then when that side draws vacuum, it could pull it across the intake manifold. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it myself. I've never come across that. But I'm seeing it on the internet and guys saying, hey, that was my issue. So what I'm going to do now is I'll pull the carb and I'll see if we have any oil inside the intake manifold. And if not, then we'll run the camera down and we'll see if we got any oil inside the runners on the heads. And if we have to, then we'll start pulling the intake manifold and see if we can track this guy down. Okay. Okay, I know I said I was going to pull the carb and take a look in the intake manifold and try and run a camera down, take a look inside these runners and whatnot. But what I was reading on the internet was really starting to get into my head. And that is these Dart Pro 1 heads or Dart Pro heads, whatever these are. I don't know. I didn't buy them. There's a part number there, though. DRT 056A. What they say is that on these heads, this intake rocker, so you got a rocker here for the intake. This guy, over here we got this guy and this guy. All four of those rocker studs go straight through into that runner, you know, that then pulls into the cylinder and burns off the fuel. And they say you must seal this here, because if you don't, I don't know if you can, that'll show up on camera or not, but that goes right into the head. Okay, it goes right into the intake runner. So whatever goes down through in here will be burned off. Well, in here we have oil. Yeah, big surprise, right? And on these studs, I see no sealant. Somebody just stuck these in dry. So in theory, and this is only a theory, oil could travel down these threads and get sucked into the intake and get burned out and coat my spark plugs. And you follow me? You with me? So I think we should go ahead and hit all these intake rockers. Be this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And same on the other side. We'll pull these studs. We will reset our valve lash. And, well, they're hydraulic, so we're just going to give them a half turn. And we'll fire this thing up and see if we still got smoke issues. I'm hoping this is a smoking gun, no pun intended, that we've been looking for. I'm hoping this is the end of it. Okay, I'm going to get that done on both sides, and then I'll come back and we'll fire this guy up. In case anybody out there wants to fully understand exactly what this involves now. So I was at TDC originally, and I was able to set the intake valve on number 2 on this side. So the passenger side's number 2, and I also did 157. So then what I do is I rotate it 180, and now I can do the rest of them, which would be number 3 on that side and number 468 on this side, I believe. So what I'll do first is I'm going after this guy. This would be number 4 intake. So I want to break off this lock nut that's actually inside this adjuster nut here. So let's knock that off. Now I'll come in and pull this guy off by hand. And knock the rocker off. And then we got the stud. So let's pull that stud. And what I'm also doing is, as I go, just taking this red marker and just marking off just taking my red marker and marking off all the valves that are done as I go. So anyway, let's pop this guy out of here. Okay, there we go. They're in pretty tight. Give them that. Kind of felt like it's in cockeyed though. The other ones were all pretty good. That one feels like that that plate is low or something. So anyway, as you can see, there's zero sealant on there. And this is a through hole, meaning it goes actually into the runner in the head. So your fuel comes into the carburetor, comes down this runner here into the head. This valve opens and allows it to go into the cylinder. So this is fuel. Right here, we add oil. Now we got ourselves a 2-stroke. At any rate, and put a little sealant on this, we'll toss her back in. There we go. Okay. Then we just slap our rocker back on. Just like so. Anyway, we're going to put this guy on until she bottoms out. So you just want to check. You can actually rotate, or you can move up and down. I like to rotate because that kind of tells me when I'm actually done right there. Then I'm going to give it a half turn. So I'm going to start there, quarter turn, half turn. And I'm going to go in behind. I'm going to tighten up that lock nut. Just like that. And repeat the process for all the intake valves. So that's the 6th one. I got 2 more to go. I'll get those done and then we're going to fire this guy up. Maybe I'll change the oil first. What the heck. Okay, so I had her running for a bit. She runs great. No more smoke. It was exactly what we found. It was the rocker stud for the intake valve. Like, who would have thought? Not me. Let's fire it up. I'll show you. Got to turn that fan on. He's got a wire to the light switch. Runs good. No issues. No smoke. She's been running for about half an hour. I just shut her off so I could tidy up. Wanted to make sure it was good before we, cried hallelujah. And it is. It's great. No smoke. None whatsoever. Gone. So listen, I know that won't apply to a lot of people. Not a lot of people are running aluminum heads or heads that normally that's a blind hole, I believe. But this is a through hole. So keep an eye on that. If you got a through hole there for your rocker stud, make sure you put some sealant on it. Because if you don't, you'll suck in oil like I did. And your floor will look like mine does. Look at my back wall. That's just, this thing ran in here for like 10 minutes. You don't want that. Turn your 2-stroke Acadian into a 4-stroke. Make sure you get in there and put some sealant on those rocker studs. That's going to do it for this one. I will be back for the next one. I think we're either going to get into the interior or we're going to finish up this thing here, which nobody cares about. And then we'll swap this thing over to a 4-speed. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the quick fuel carb back on that came with this thing, and I'll get that set up. This Holly's kind of tired and a little leaky, and it was only put on because I knew it was a good carb, even though it had its own issues. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this one. Be sure to like. Nobody shares these things, do they? I don't know. If you share things, share it and subscribe. It means a lot to the channel. All right, thanks a lot, guys. We'll get back on this one. I don't know, within the week for sure. And then don't forget, we'll be onto this guy at some point here too. We have everything to assemble and make this guy run again. So just a matter of time before we get onto it. You know me, I'll get bored of this one in 20 minutes and on to the next one. All right, thanks guys.